Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. HTM here with an extremely unique and powerful setup for the Magicka Nightblade. This is a heavy attack lightning staff build with on-demand access to empower for 80% bonus heavy attack damage. We're stacking that with the new 10% bonus damage from Nightblade's concealed weapon, along with some great heavy attack sets that buff our damage even further. Of course, all that combined with the classic Magicka Nightblade self-healing, speed, and survivability that makes this setup great for any content in the game, whether you want to play solo or in a group. This build can do it all, and it is a lot of fun to play, so let's jump right into it. Alright everybody, here we are back on the Magicka Nightblade with an updated solo heavy attack build for Update 35, the Lost Depths DLC. Extremely powerful and easy to play, this particular setup on the Mag Nightblade. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Buff up a couple of our stats here, use a potion, and check out the character sheet. So we got about 34,000 max Magicka, about 24,000 max health, about 17,000 max stamina, 4,300 spell damage that will go up closer to 5,000 when we're fully buffed, and about 68% crit chance is looking really good. Of course, our resistances will go up with our shadow skill. We'll talk about that when we get to the rotation, but that is the basic character stats. Now, this will change with the other version of the build, which I will show you in just a minute, but this is kind of the basic easy mode setup. Of course, we've got 64 points into max Magicka. We are going to be a Magicka-focused Nightblade on this setup. High health will be the ideal race for the extra spell damage, the extra sustain. Also, the damage reduction while channeling, great for heavy attack builds. And then as far as the consumables here, Bewitched Sugar Skulls. I just recommend this for solo content and arenas. Just to have the extra stamina is a nice option. It's very helpful for sprinting, for roll dodging, etc. Of course, if you're just doing, basic DPS, more of a group setting, then you could use something else here. Maybe the blue quality, max health, max Magicka food would be good. For the Mundus stone, we have the Thief Mundus. This is going to increase our critical chance. We do have very high crit chance on this build thanks to this particular Mundus. And then as far as consumables, you will want a basic spell power potion. You can sort of switch that up and use different skills to get those same buffs for free if you want. That's totally an option. But just to kind of maximize your damage and make your rotation simpler, spell power potions are going to be the way to go on this setup. So that is the basics. Let's go ahead and talk about the sets. Starting with our main 5-piece set, this is going to be the Order's Wrath crafted set from the High Isle chapter. Just a very powerful, easy to get set. This gives you lots of crit chance, weapon and spell damage, and critical healing, so it feels very good to use this on the Nightblade since we already have, pretty high crit stats. Overall, this just extends those a little bit further. So we've got the Lightning Staff on the front bar, precise, with a shot glyph, and then Inferno Staff on the back bar, infused with a weapon damage glyph. And again, this is just the basic setup for now. So that will cover 2 set bonuses because it's a 2-handed weapon. And then for the other 3, we're just going to have Order's Wrath on the jewelry. So Order's Wrath necklace, 2 rings, spell damage on all of those. I have a mix of Bloodthirsty and Arcane right now. You could go with full Bloodthirsty if you want to maximize your damage with spell damage glyphs as our enchants there. For the second 5-piece set, we've got a very powerful, heavy attack focused set. I did list this in my new heavy attack guide. I'll have a link for that in the description if you want to check out some of the best heavy attack sets in Update 35. This is definitely one of them. It has one kind of not so useful stat, that being the 2-piece bonus of stamina recovery. It's okay, it's decent. It doesn't give you any damage, but it can be helpful, especially if you're soloing. But then we have 2 very nice spell damage and weapon damage bonuses. And the 5-piece bonus, when you deal damage with a light or a heavy, you increase those damages by over 2,000 for 15 seconds. So it's a nice long duration buff. I do kind of like this set more than the Sergeant's Mail set for that reason. It doesn't have multiple stacks that you need to maintain. You just literally do 1 heavy attack or 1 light attack, and then all of those attacks are buffed for 15 seconds. So this is really nice. I hope they do keep it this way because it is more flexible. This is a light armor set, by the way. I believe it comes from Blessed Crucible, so it's a base game set. Just get it from the dungeon. And you can run this 5 pieces on the body. So I've got the feet, legs, hands, waist, and chest. Again, those are all light pieces. Max Magicka Divines is the trait, if you can get it. And then that just leaves you with room for a monster set of your choice. If you want to maximize your damage, I would recommend Zons. Now you can mix up the weights here. You can run like a heavy helmet, medium shoulder, heavy helmet. I would recommend 511 for the basic setup, just to maximize your stat pools, right? If you have the Undaunted Metal passive, which we'll look at in a minute, you can get a lot of good bonus stats from having those different armor weights. If you want something a little bit more protective for solo gameplay, but still have some damage, I would recommend Iceheart. For that instead, you get the same 1-piece critical chance bonus, but you also get a nice damage shield that occurs every time you do critical damage. You have a 20% chance of proccing that shield, and since our crit chance is so high on the Nightblade, this just works really, really well. So those are kind of my top 2 options there for Monster Helms. So again, that's the basic setup. You've got Order's Wrath, staff, and jewelry, Noble Duelist on the body, and then the monster set of your choice. Now you can actually run this build with a Mythic as well, and you can keep the monster set too, which is actually really powerful. And I want to show you how to do that right now. So it's a little bit more complicated. We're going to start by getting a Mythic on here, and you can use any Mythic of your choice. I am going to use right now Ring of the Pale Order. This is going to be great if you're doing like solo arenas, Veteran, Maelstrom, Vet Vatishran, for example. The extra healing that you can get, 20% of your damage restored as health, is actually really, really helpful. So this is going to be a great option. If you want to focus more on your damage, then something like Sea Serpent's Coil would be very nice also. Even Harpooner's Wading Kilt if you're doing more group content and want to play this as a DPS. All of those are going to be really nice options. So let's say, for example, I'm just going to do Ring of the Pale Order as my Mythic. To do that, I have to drop 1 Order's Wrath ring and put on my Pale Order ring. So I lost 1 Order's Wrath. I'm down to 4 set pieces there. So in order to fix that, to get up to 5 pieces of Order's Wrath, I'm going to drop the belt and make that an Order's Wrath belt. So now I'm up to 5 pieces on my front bar. So essentially what we're doing is we're front barring now Order's Wrath. That's going to give us the crit damage and crit chance only while we're on the front bar, which is actually fine because we do most of the damage on the front bar. That totally works. Okay, so we still have our 5-piece Order's Wrath. Now, we actually don't need to double bar Order's Wrath. Like we said, we can front bar it, get those offensive stats while we're on the front bar, but we can actually back bar instead a Noble Duelist staff. Let me go ahead and bar swap so you can see the bonus is now active. Once I'm on the back bar, I get the whole 5-piece bonus. And again, the really nice thing about Noble Duelist is it has a 15-second duration. So as long as you light attack, 1 time on your back bar, you'll get this nice buff for 15 seconds. So I have, the 2-piece there. I've still got 3 pieces on the body. So here's 3, here's 4, here's 5. So that works. And I actually free up another slot for the chest. I can run a 1-piece chest, something like a heavy trainee, for example. I can get extra armor. I can get extra health from the 1-piece bonus. So that's a really nice way to run this build. You still get all the same sets. Your front barring Order's Wrath, your back barring Noble Duelist for the heavy attack proc. You still get to keep your monster set, and you get a free chest piece. Again, trainee is good for that. And you get a free Mythic. So this is a really good way to run the setup as well. If you're confused, don't worry. I'll have both versions listed in the written guide, so you can check that out if you are interested. Let's go ahead and check out the skills next. Skills don't change really, regardless of which setup you're using. So on the front bar, we've got Impale. That's going to be from Assassination. This is just our Execute on Magicka Nightblade. Next skill is going to be Ambush, and this is a stamina morph, but it's really interesting because this gives you Empower. So yes, I know this costs stamina. We're not really using it for the damage. We're using it for that insane heavy attack buff. Empower got a big upgrade in Update 35. It now gives you 80% bonus to your heavy attacks as long as you're in PvE content. So This is a really strong ability. 10-second duration, going to buff all of our heavy attacks on the front bar, which is going to do really, really good damage. Next up is Concealed Weapon. Now, you can use this as a spammable if you want. This comes from Shadow skill line, by the way. You can spam this for good DPS, but you can also just leave it slotted on your front bar for the passives. So you can see when you leave Sneak, Invisibility, or Major Expedition ends, your damage done is increased by 10% for 5 seconds. This is another new addition to Update 35. It's a huge passive damage bonus applied to Concealed Weapon. Now we'll talk about how to proc this with our back bar skills, but for now you can just put this passively on your front bar to get that 10% bonus damage. And then we have Swallow Soul. This comes from Siphoning. So this is a nice heal. It's a sort of a passive heal almost. You just cast this once and you get a strong 10-second heal over time. I don't always use this in a rotation, only if I need the extra healing. It is really good for that. Also, you get some passive bonuses from this, which we'll talk about soon. And then Merciless Resolve is our last normal skill here from Assassination. This is the 5-stack, bow proc. You can build that up. Build up your weapon and spell damage. You get a huge burst heal from this, which is also helpful. So yeah, really, really good skill. And then our ultimate here is going to be Incapacitating Strike. You can use other morph if you want. I just like the Reeve bonus here, which restores 100 Magicka and Stamina when we're dealing light and heavy attacks. So it does give a little bit of a passive bonus as well, so that's not bad. Let's go ahead and swap to the back bar. So we've got Blockade of Fire. This comes from the Destruction Staff. Second ability here. This really is just for proccing our back bar glyph, right? So that infused weapon and spell damage enchant on our back bar staff. This is the best way to proc that and get that extra damage. Next up, Twisting Path. So remember we looked at Concealed Weapon. This comes from the Shadow skill line, by the way. Concealed Weapon procs when the Major Expedition buff ends. And you can see Twisting Path grants Major Expedition. Now they did this on purpose. They basically made both skills sort of synergize and work together. So as long as you're standing in Twisting Path, it basically, the Major Expedition part of the skill ends every few seconds and it refreshes itself, which is going to proc that extra bonus damage, the 10% bonus on Concealed Weapon. So I'll show you when we get to the rotation as well, but just make sure you're standing in your Twisting Path and you get that nice bonus. Next up, we've got Channeled Acceleration. This comes from Sigic Order skill line. We want this for the Minor Force buff, 10% bonus critical damage. If you don't have the Sigic Order skill line, totally fine. An alternative skill for that would be Fighter's Guild and Barb Trap. It's a decent single target dot and it gives you the same Minor Force buff. Lastly, we've got Elemental Drain. This comes from the Destruction Staff skill line. Definitely recommend this for boss fights, especially some of the harder arenas, Vadashran for example. You need to debuff that boss armor as much as possible, so this gives you an extra 6k physical and spell resistance reduction. That's the Major Breach debuff. Plus it gives you a little bit of sustain, some Magicka back from Minor Magicka Steel, so it's a really good ability. And then just for emergencies, Dampen Magic, that is the Light Armor Shield. I like this morph because the shield is just a little bit stronger, but this will give you a nice shield on your health bar when you're taking too much damage and you don't have enough healing. Finally, the back bar ultimate is up to you. I do like Fiery Rage from the Destruction Staff. This is really good for burning bosses in solo arenas. Of course, you can double bar in-cap strike. That'll give you a bit better passive situation. As far as your assassination passives, you'll be able to maintain those across both skill bars. I also really like Soul Tether. This is a nice option for harder solo content as well because it provides you a big heal and a big stun. It's going to be great for groups as well. So there you go. That is the basic skill loadout. Let's go ahead and talk about the rotation really quick here against a world boss. Buffing is fairly simple. You'll want to just maintain your channeled acceleration as much as possible. Make sure your potion is active and then Merciless Resolve. Go ahead and start on the back bar. Debuff the boss and then our 2 back bar dots. It's Wall of Elements, Twisting Path. Front bar, use that ambush to proc Empower. Use your Swallow Soul to get a heal, and then your Merciless should be ready. Fire that off. I'm going to do 3 heavy attacks in a row. Now these give you 2 stacks of Merciless, so after you do 3 heavy attacks, look, my Merciless is back already. I can proc that twice, so again, and then go back to rebuff. Of course, if your ult's ready, you can drop that. Remember, Empower, Merciless, heavy attack 3 times. Throw in your Swallow Soul if you want extra healing. It's Merciless again. Let me go ahead and rebuff Channeled Acceleration because that's falling. Now you can use the front bar ult if that's ready. We're already in execute range. So I don't think I'm going to bother back bar buffs. Just finish it off right here. There you go. Pretty simple. All right, so what passives do you need on the Magicka Nightblade? Well, you're going to want most of your class passives here, especially Assassination. These are your damaging passives. The main ones here, Executioner is great for grinding in dungeons, gives you lots of sustain back. Pressure Points gives you bonus weapon and spell crit rating. So this is especially useful, especially on the front bar where we have more of those assassination skills. 4 skills means we get lots of bonus crit chance. And then Hemorrhage, this is where you get bonus critical damage, but you do need one of these skills slotted. That's why I said you can double bar in cap strike, like I said, if you want to get that passive active on both of your skill bars. Talk about Shadow next. A really important one here. Shadow Barrier, this is going to give you major resolve. Now that's anytime you use a shadow ability. So if you are using Concealed Weapon, if you throw in a couple of those on the front bar, you will get your armor to proc. You will have a pretty decent uptime using Twisting Path on the back bar as well. So just make a note of that. Refreshing Shadows obviously is really good for the extra recovery. Dark Vigor gives us bonus health, and then Dark Veil does increase the duration of Twisting Path. So that is important to unlock that one as soon as possible. Finally, Siphoning. These are great, honestly. So Catalyst gives you 20 ultimate back when you drink a potion. Magicka Flood gives you 8% max Magicka. This is really great on the Magicka focused Nightblade. And we do get this bonus since we are using Swallow Soul on the front bar. You can get it on both bars if you use Soul Tether as your back bar ultimate, by the way. Soul Siphoner gives you a bit of extra healing, which is great. And then Transfer, more ultimate, is good. Yes, you will want all of your Destruction Staff passives, all of your light armor passives as well. As far as guild passives, we're really not using any guild skills, at least on this version of the build, except for, like I mentioned, Undaunted. You will want this if you're trying to max out your stat pools. Since I'm using the heavy chest, a medium helmet, on this version of the build, that's 6% bonus Magicka, stamina, and health. That's really nice, especially for soloing. And obviously you want your racial skills, and then Alchemy, medicinal use for the extra potion duration. Talk about champion points next. I will have this in the written guide, detailed champion point loadouts for 300, 600, 900, and 1200 CP. So go ahead and check out the written guide if you want more details. But just quickly here in the green tree, we've got Treasure Hunter, Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, and Steed's Blessing. Over in the blue tree, we have Fighting Finesse, Weapons Expert for the extra heavy attack damage. That's an important one. Make sure you don't miss that. And then finally, Deadly Aim and Thaumaturge. Other important stars, especially if you are playing solo, make sure you jump into Staving Death. Pick up Quick Recovery and then Preparation for the extra damage reduction. And then finally, in the red tree, got the usual suspects here. I've got Boundless Vitality for extra health, Fortified for extra armor, Rejuvenation for extra recovery, and then Siphoning Spells is going to be good for some extra sustain, especially when facing off a lot of enemies. But those are the basic slotted stars. Again, you can check out the written guide for more details on all the passives and everything else that you need to know for champion points. You can check out the outfit style here quickly if you're curious. Actually, this is, I believe, a costume. Where is that? Old Orsinium Sentry. So that's one of the story quests in the zone of Hrothgar. All right, everybody, and with that said, that's going to wrap up this new heavy attack build for the Magicka Nightblade. Hope you all enjoyed this one and found it informative. Of course, if you did, make sure to crush that like button so that YouTube knows to share this video out with as many viewers as possible. We've got more heavy attack easy builds on the way for update 35. In fact, our tier 2 channel members right now have access to a really powerful and unique heavy attack werewolf build. You can get more information on that and our entire membership by clicking on the join button down below, which is still 20% off for the first month. I'm not sure how much longer that will be on sale, but definitely worth checking out if you're interested in supporting the channel and getting some great perks along the way. That being said, I'll leave you with a bit more gameplay of the Magicka Nightblade. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.